Here we are.
Yep, here we are.
It's Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday, y'all, and it is almost Halloween.
It is.
Which is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
So it's Charlotte and Jessica. Here we are live at Aragon Wine Market in Pensacola, Florida. And I always like to say where we are only because we have people last week, Philip joined us from, he was in England. We have people that join us from South America.
La Madrid was in Argentina.
Yeah.
We've had Laurent, who was, while he was in America, we were talking about France. And so it's been beautiful to be kind of all around the world.
It's been really cool.
Yeah.
Especially, and we were just talking with somebody recently about how, so even when things go back to normal, this is probably going to remain the same because are so fortunate to talk to people from all over the world that would not normally come to Pensacola, and it's just super cool that we're able to do that.
That's probably been one of my favorite change of processes, is that, to have the opportunity as a novice going into this wine world to talk to Julie Johnson.
Yeah.
For an hour.
Yeah.
Someone that was a female pioneer in the wine industry, and to be able to sit back and talk about recipes of food and talk about,
we should talk to her again soon. That was so much fun.
What would you cook? Just to be able to hear straight from the horse's mouth, the whole kind of concept of the passion and the family history and all the stories that come behind it.
And I would be curious to see what you guys all think about, how would you like to see this progress? How would you like to see this when we do go back to normal and we have wine tastings in the store? I'm curious. We may send out a survey. We talked about this just briefly about
work on that.
Sending out a survey to get you guys' thoughts and ideas on how you see life going forward, how you see how comfortable you are coming back into the store, those kind of things. Right now, we are focusing on the holidays. The holidays will be here before we know it. We're all excited about that. We're getting our Thanksgiving box ready. I know I keep saying that every year. I mean, every week.
Every week. It really
but
is.
We really are getting it together soon, right?
Yes.
I'm looking at her because I'm right?
I literally received an email today we talked about that for 2 weeks. We should probably finalize it.
It's time.
By November 1, you will have a Halloween box. Thanksgiving box, not a Halloween box.
Although Halloween. So anyway, so next week we are doing a Halloween show. We would love you guys to dress up with us.
Yes, that's where my mind was really at already.
We may have costumes.
It'll be astounding.
Of course, we're having costumes. It's Halloween. It's both of our favorite holidays. So, so that'll be fun. We're gonna get those together. Also, we are gonna do while we're not doing wine tastings in store, we are doing holiday parties in the store. So if you guys are interested in a small holiday party, call Jess. She's also an event planner, so if you're having a party that you don't want to have at our store, that's okay too. Call her still, and she'll hook you up and get things going for you.
Definitely. So, whether you're looking for an intimate, private wine tasting, maybe with your immediate family, or maybe a corporate or executive meeting where you just want to feature your, top level or whoever, we're definitely comfortable on a flow of up to about 30 people and have a number of options. That would be amazing going to holidays, and we'd love to host your private event. So definitely want to talk about that with you. Yeah.
All right, so how this works. So hopefully you've gotten your wines. We've got some great wines from G. We are all over the little
we're
tonight.
Excited.
So, we are excited. GD Vajra. And those are all coming to us tonight. And so it's a family-run business. Hopefully you've got your wines. We're doing the Rosa and the Nebiolo tonight.
That's right.
They're both beautiful bottles. I love just the packaging alone is beautiful. Too. I'm actually low on my Rosa if you want to hook me up with some.
Hook you up with it's the other one.
But so we're going to...
the packaging is beautiful, and we're going to get to the wines in just a bit, but it is truly a beautiful, beautiful label.
And it's a nice family-run business, and that's always kind of neat.
Yeah.
We're going to bring in Monsieur Fix, who always joins us. And we've got Kevin also from the winery. Let's see, we got you. There we go.
There
Hi,
we
guys.
are.
Buonasera.
Hi, Kevin. You're joining us from Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, everyone.
That's a cool spot.
Thank you. Yeah, welcome to my tiny apartment.
Which is what you have in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So tell us,
good.
you're in charge of North America
Yeah.
for JD Vajra. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, so you would say Vi. The J is not actually pronounced the way that we pronounce a J.
Mm-hmm.
There's no J in the Italian alphabet. In fact, the Vajra family spells their name with an I. This is the traditional spelling of the name.
Ah, okay.
But if you were to say it in Italian, it's Vi. You roll the R, Vajra. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's how you say it, and it's GD, which we'll get to the family, but it stands for Giuseppe Domenico, who is Aldo, who started the winery's father's name.
Gotcha.
We were almost there. Good.
Yeah, Vajra. But I'm terrible at rolling my R's is the problem. So. Well, thank you for joining us. So tell us a little bit just generally about the winery. I know it's a family-run winery, and they've been around for quite some time.
Yeah. We'll talk about the winery, and then I'd love to give an idea for people where we are. So our winery has actually been around. Seemingly, it seems like a long time, but in fact, in terms of a lot of wineries in Europe, it's actually a very short time. The Vajra family have been farming vineyards since the late 1800s. In fact, we recently found that there was a Vajra in the hamlet where we're located since the late 1600s. However, like a lot of wineries that you come across from the Piemonte region, a lot of wineries are only second generation or third generation started. This was an area that was extremely poor. And a lot of people sold their fruit instead of making their wine. They definitely were not in any type of popularity that we are now, the region. In fact, now we can hire an American to speak about their wines. So our winery actually wasn't officially started
Great commentary.
until 1972. So our first official vintage was 1972, and that was started by Aldo, who was at the tender age of 19.
Wow.
He used his father's name to start the winery. Fast forward to today, we're now into the second generation of winemaking family. And so our winemaking story is fairly new in the grand scheme of Europe.
Yeah.
But farming vineyards, that has been a longer story for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so speaking of where you are located,
Sure.
we would love to hear about that.
Yeah.
Is this time to add in?
Yeah, let me share my screen.
Sure.
So we have two wines tonight that actually have the name Langhe on the label. And Langhe Rosso, which we'll get to at some point, is confusing for a lot of people here in America because what are the grapes, right? Nebiolo, Langhe Nebiolo, we know the grape. But let's go to where we are first. So sorry for those of you if this is a little too basic, but just to kind of give you an idea where we are and why it's so important and kind of where Nebiolo gets its name too as well. So if you could see can you see my cursor on your screen?
Yeah, we sure can.
Cool. So clearly this is Italy, right? You see the boot down here. What you see in red on the top left corner of Italy, which is the northwest corner, this is Piemonte, okay? Now, this is the outline of Piemonte, okay? And this is the town of Alba. So if anyone's had Nutella before, Ferrero Rocher,
I love Nutella.
this is where Nutella comes from. This is where the Ferrero factories are. So that's what's really unique about Alba. So just about 15-minute drive from Alba is where Barolo is. And to show you another area, this is the DOCG of Barolo. So if you're tasting Barolo, which we're not tasting tonight, but Michael might mention some, it would come from this area. There's more guidelines to that, but just to kind of give you an idea. I'm going to go back to this map for a moment. So here in Barolo specifically, where we are, the town of Alba around it has two other major areas that you might have in your shop. One of them is Roero, and the other one is Barbaresco. This is the Langhe. So this general area with these long sort of carved out hills is the Langhe. Okay, so we can make Nebbiolo, we can make the Rosso from a lot of these different areas. The majority of our vineyards are within the Barolo area. Okay. Before we carry on, I'm going to show you one more.
And if we just hold for a moment, I mean, that last screen, I mean, I don't know if you can go back. That was beautiful looking at
this
that.
one. Yeah, I'm going to show you a much nicer one to kind of give you an idea of where we are and why this is unique. Because this area, not only is it the very steep rolling hills, where we are in proximity to the Alpine range is what's really important. Where we are in proximity to the Mediterranean is also really important. So where I'm showing you right now is a view.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this red here is the crew that we farm, which is called Bricco delle Viole. Okay, where I'm looking to the west.
You're right. This is a far better image.
Far better view, right? So
Yeah.
to kind of put this into perspective, instead of you guys just looking at my apartment in Brooklyn, which doesn't give you perspective, it kind of helps you understand where we're talking about. So what's unique about this area? The cool air on the other side of the Alps, that's France, okay? The tallest peak in the southern part of the Alps is Monviso, which is here, okay? So the cool air that pulls from the Mediterranean comes east through here. Now, I can't show you the Mediterranean because it's about an hour south, but we would be looking this way, okay? The warm air and that humidity that pulls up from the Mediterranean that kind of acts as this battlefield with the cool air is what creates this beautiful fog that rolls in every morning.
Oh, okay?
Yeah.
Nebbia is the Italian word for fog, okay?
Right.
Nebbiolo gets its name from being the wine of the fog, okay? But where we are is up here in this little hamlet called Vernay, okay? What's unique about Vernay is because it's high in elevation, we have much drier winters, okay? And we also have more days of sunlight. So this comes from an old verb that meant to spend, and in this case, to spend the winter. So people who lived in the valley where a lot of the fog would situate itself would spend their time up in Vernay. So this is the view from the top of our vineyards in Bricco delle Viole. And just in this little hamlet is where our winery is located.
Wow, neat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think we definitely understand that kind of coastal fog. Being in Pensacola, we get that often. You know, you've got that humid coastal front line, especially as we cross our moderate season change that we have here.
I was still waiting for that. It's almost November, and I'm wearing a tank top.
Yeah,
so.
it hasn't happened yet.
I would say the major difference.
We'll get that kind of coastal fog, and then inland it'll be chillier. You know, I think of some of our lower counties like cities, you know, or little towns. As you go inland, we'll feel that they'll be colder in Cantonment, and Jay and other areas of Florida right inland of us. But we on the coast are humid and have that kind of morning fog that burns out midday. But I think that's a good kind of, I mean, if it is a good, you know, comparison to our region here and our weather.
Yeah, I would say one of the major differences is that our temperature gets much cooler.
Without a doubt.
At nighttime.
Although in Florida, you can have mornings that are in the 40s and hit midday that are in the upper 80s, realistically. So it can be that, although it's probably not the same, you can have those days that are drastically different.
When we talk about diurnal shifts from day to night, that's really important for the life of a vine, specifically Nebbiolo. We'll talk about more when we get there. So it is kind of similar, having cool mornings, cool nights, and very hot days.
Yeah. That's a beautiful area too.
Right?
Really beautiful.
How often do you get there?
4 times a year. Unfortunately, this year 0 times.
Not this year, unfortunately.
I missed my first harvest in 4 years. So.
Oh man, that sucks.
Unfortunately.
But
an elevation standpoint, like.
So the top part of where I'm showing you, up here in Bricco delle Viole, this is the top part where this little water tower is. That's 480 meters. So that is just under 1,600 feet.
Okay.
So in terms of elevation where we are, the historical vineyards, this used to be the highest elevation. There are other vineyards that are higher elevation now. with climate change, higher elevation vineyards are becoming more important.
Right.
Sure.
Which we hear about every time we do one of these is climate change, how it's affected different regions.
Yep.
FYI, I just will say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, awesome. Well, that's beautiful. And so tell us a little bit about the family.
Sure. You can take away my screen if you like, and we can go back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely will.
To give a little more of a picture of me. Okay, so a little bit about the family. So Michael, I believe has probably met Francesca in the past, and Michael, have you met Francesca?
I don't know if I don't think we've met. I've been buying and selling the wines from Vajra since back when I was in New York, buying them from Martin Scott, I believe, at the time.
Right.
So I've known and loved these wines for a number of years due to myself being in the restaurant business and now being here. So I've met a lot of people, but I don't think I met Francesca at the time. I just love the wines and love the family, and I love the way that they approach these grapes. I think that they are unique in the way that they produce their wines. I know we say that about lots of wines, but especially it's important with something like in Piemonte, where you're talking about Nebiolo, which has a very specific flavor profile, and the Vajra wines have a very specific house, I think, style. And I just have always loved their wines, and they're gems of people. I've done a few Zoom meetings with Giuseppe, and they are just absolutely some of the nicest and coolest people I've ever encountered in the wine business, for sure.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked Michael that is because Francesca, I'll go through the whole family, but Francesca used to travel to Florida before all of this. In fact, I was supposed to be traveling to the Panhandle in April, which unfortunately that got canceled.
Oh, yeah.
So I mentioned Aldo. Okay, so Aldo started the winery at the age of 19 in 1972.
Which I was fascinated by how young he was.
Yeah.
And you said earlier he used his father's name.
So,
is there more to that than just using?
Sure. Yeah, no, there's more to that. So Aldo was actually raised as a city kid in Torino. The family was from Bernay, which his grandparents still lived and had the farmland, but also had vineyards that they had sharecroppers that were farming. So Aldo was actually raised in Torino. It wasn't until his father found him sort of protesting the Vietnam War in the 60s that he sent him back to get away from the social tensions in the summer to be at the farm at the age of 15. But little did he know that his son would fall in love with farming. So Aldo was actually, he had to strike a deal with the family where he could keep going back to the vineyard, but he had to finish his schooling. And so when he moved back, he was the only guy that was in the region that had a PhD. And so he taught in a university in Alba to raise money to buy vineyards. So when he was able to actually start his winery at the age of 19, he was not able to put his own name on the wines, which a lot of people will tend to do. Aldo also was very thankful for the blessing of his father, and that's where he named it. So in the 80s, he came across a gal, and her name is Milena. And I always tell this story because it kind of puts things in perspective. Because Milena told me,
perspective.
Milena told me stories of how, and other winemakers that I know that are women, that women were actually persuaded in the region to not date farmers or winemakers because there was no future in winemaking in this region. That's how serious it was at the time. So she was the gal that fell in love. They both fell in love. And then in 1985, they had Giuseppe. So Giuseppe is my friend, my boss. He's the head winemaker now, export manager, everything. Giuseppe is the eldest son. Francesca, who handles our Italian markets, some of our global markets, she comes to America 4 times a year, which we miss her. And also the hospitality team at the winery. She is the middle child. And then Isidoro. So you can see some of the family on our website. There's some other great videos as well. Isidoro.
I love the pictures on the website because it was like you went through Giuseppe and it went through all the like
Yeah.
siblings and it got to one of the family members and she's holding the baby while she's like on the computer.
Yeah.
And that's like
So-
so real.
That's so
I think
cute,
that's so
yeah.
real for us currently in 2020 and everything is like working from a home environment.
Oh my
But
God.
it was such a real and beautiful thing, and we're always connected to the stories
Yeah.
behind the wines that we
Oh,
sell
for
here.
sure. Yeah.
So,
And so to see like sons and daughters and
Yeah.
like holding babies, leaning over marketing platforms are amazing to us.
So Isidoro now handles all the vineyard management, and the woman that you're mentioning is Sophie, which is Giuseppe's wife, who has 3 children, and she's currently pregnant, and they're having another
Oh,
child.
wow.
Yay!
4 children, which is maybe somewhere 10, 20 years down the line. If I'm still with the Vajra family, I'll be talking about little Aldo and Lucia and Mia, whose birthday is it today. And,
Oh,
and
happy
so
birthday.
what's important and why you asked that question is that
Yeah.
we're a family-oriented winery, and we own all of our vineyards. We farm all of our vineyards. We've been farming all of our vineyards since day one organically. Something that we always talk about, and I think a lot of people should talk about, is we don't farm the land for this generation. We farm the land for multiple generations. And
We
Yeah.
have touched on
That's
this
another theme. Yeah.
since March. Our ongoing themes have been 2 things: global warming
sure.
and sustainability. And sustainability from the standpoint of we are not farming wines from just for the sake of being organic, but for the sake of the land and the sake of our families and our children and our
Passing
future.
things down.
Of what this vineyard will look like
Yeah.
in 20 years, in 10 years, in 40 years for the future generations to
Yeah.
come.
It's so nice. I
It's
love that.
beautiful to hear that consistent, and it's been an organic conversation. It's not
Oh, yeah.
been, we don't open it with like, oh, let's be all about, the global warming, or like, let's like start the conversation with that. It's truly
It's always,
been
it's always
an
just
organic
something.
dialogue in which it's come up. And I think that's why it becomes that much more important that we talk about
It's
it,
definitely a running theme throughout these. That
especially for the winemakers that have their hands in the grapes. They have their hands on these vineyards and understand.
they know.
Or like we talked about with the people who live at the winery or sometimes live at the vineyard source, and they say, we live here. This is where we live. This is the water that's coming out of the well is where our house is. And so they really take extra care because of that too. It's not only just about subsequent generations, it's about literally their health today and tomorrow. And so, and I think, Kevin would talk about this too, and a lot of people from Burgundy or Bordeaux, maybe not Bordeaux, that's probably not a good example, but Burgundy probably, and some other places in France and in Italy, they've been doing this and growing grapes like this for a long, long time. And utilizing certain chemical procedures is really quite new to a lot of, really since the end of the Second World War. So that's not a common thing. It hasn't been happening for 100 years. It's been happening for 70 years or less. And so we can reverse that very easily because it might feel entrenched, but not in the sense of wine culture in Italy. That's not entrenched. 70 years is not a long time at all.
No.
So we can easily change that when we understand more about it, for sure.
Yeah, organic farming is not a new concept. It just seems like it's new because we got away from it. People got away from it for so long.
Yeah. So it's funny because when people started first coming in asking about natural wines, they were like, natural wines and dry farming. I was like, isn't that how France does that? I didn't understand that what the concept was. I was like, that's kind of like how they've been doing it for years. So interesting. But so why don't we move on to the Rosa, the first wine of the evening. I've already been drinking a little bit. I hope everybody else obviously has been. I would imagine people were already drinking it and not waiting for us to discuss it.
Certainly.
Yeah, please don't wait for us. And please share some comments. What you think of the wine so far?
Yeah, thank you. I agree. If there's any questions out there, feel free to text them or to add them into the stream, and we will ask Kevin if we would love any questions are always are appreciated.
Cool. So Langhe Rosso. Clearly, I'm sure a lot of you know the meaning of rosso, which would be red. So we're drinking red wine. However, it can be kind of confusing. So the word Langhe is.
And I'm so glad that you're starting on this,
Yeah, go
because every customer that came in today, they were like, so can you describe to me the difference between a Bordeaux and a Cabernet Sauvignon? Can you describe to me the difference between all of these things? And I love that you're opening with region. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
well, so where the name Langhe actually really comes from is unknown. However, the main theory is the region that we are these sort of long running hills that are eroded over time. And they kind of look like long tongues, and it's old, and so Langhe meaning the tongues, but really it's this general area. It's this area where we are, where these hills are. So the wine can come from this area. Okay. So that means when you see the word Langhe, you know that it's now from us talking that it was from Italy. It was from Piemonte, and it was from this specific place of Piemonte, which is around the Tanaro River, which I couldn't show you on that, within the Langhe. So that means that the grapes come from that area. Now, what are the typical grapes from our area? We are going to try Nebiolo, which is next. That is sort of seen as the grape of our region. It makes Barolo. It is the king of wines right now. But there are other varietals. There's another grape that you guys probably have in the store that's called Barbera. Okay, yeah. This is a very typical. This is the most widely planted grape in this area, and then a grape called Dolcetto. These are sort of the three main varietals that are in this area. So when you see the word Langhe, you're thinking, yes, it's Piemonte, yes, it's this area, but it could be one of these grapes. Now, it's a vague designation. It's sort of a declassified designation, meaning it can be a lot of different things. We actually happen to pick 6 different grapes that go into this wine. So it is kind of confusing for a lot of people. However, we make this wine to open a lot of doors. You sell it in your store for what price, maybe?
It's $15 a bottle.
Exactly. So
yeah,
easy
price point.
Yeah, exactly. So we make this wine so a lot of people can go home and drink it tonight. You don't have to spend a lot of money to drink it, and that's sort of the theme with all of our wines. But this wine specifically is a really entry into what we do. And you pop the cork and it's ready to drink. That's what's beautiful. So,
yeah. And quite honestly, that's a lot of what we try to do here at Aragon. You know, I think the misconception is, and it was for me for many years, that every bottle that we had in the shop was just too expensive. It was going to be a higher price point bottle. We work really hard at having those everyday drinkable, take them home and enjoy them today, maybe take 2 home and put 1 away for a little bit later. Bottles at a moderate price point, and then certainly offering the ability to have a luxury wine or the upper tiers from these same beautiful vineyards and other vineyards that are at that higher price point. But I think that's probably one of the things that we really work hard at breaking down, that misconception that we just have luxury wines and we don't have the everyday wine that you can come home and fill your fridge, your cellar, your cabinet with.
Thursday night wine.
Hello, at $15 a bottle. And so that's something that we really always try to highlight, that kind of spectrum.
Yeah, I use this example. I travel. I used to travel quite a bit, and in all over America, this wine is sort of a house wine for restaurants, the house red for restaurants, and that's one side of the spectrum. And the other side is I literally had a Burgundy Barolo champagne collector in Georgia, in Atlanta, that told me that him and his wife, this is actually their house red for that exact thing that you're mentioning. They can't open up all their wines every night. So if they need to open something with dinner, that's really, just a fast dinner, this is their wine. So it's for everyone and everywhere in between. So I'll just go over the grapes real quick and sort of break down.
Please do.
And I like to do it this way. When we do it, we'll look at it in terms of acidity and tannin, if you will. That's okay.
Yes, please do.
So the first grape and the grape that we're going to taste next is Nebiolo. So this is not a full mirror. Hold on, let's say. Okay, so okay. In the left hand, so it's kind of confusing looking at it. So Nebiolo is a grape that is high in acid and also high in tannin. Okay, so when you guys are tasting the wine, when you guys taste wine that is high in acid, high in tannin, it's kind of all over your palate, right? You feel it in the front of that acid, you kind of get in the front of your palate, and that tannin, you get that dryness in the back of your palate.
Yeah.
Now, Barbera is a grape that is very high in acid, very low in tannin. So for some of you that are looking for a grape that is not really dry, that has a little bit more fruit, that's you feel more in the middle of the palate, in the front of the palate, that's Barbera. Now, Dolcetto is on the other side of the spectrum, very low in acid, very high in tannin. Okay, and so Dolcetto, and when you guys, if you ever try our Dolcetto, we try to be a little bit more softer on the tannin, so the juice is really vibrant. And those are the three varietals. Okay,
I would like to try your Dolcetto because Dolcetto it's just so it's just not appealing to me usually. So I would definitely like to try yours. Yeah.
You'll be surprised if you've had bad. Take a note, Michael.
Noted.
It's one of my missions to get more people to drink Dolcetto. We've over time Dolcetto is this would be plantings under vine, and we've just seen Dolcetto do this and Nebiolo do this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can imagine.
We're one of the only Barolo wineries. If we might be the only Barolo winery that actually makes two different Dolcettos. So we actually take the time to make two Dolcettos. But
challenge accepted. I'll try.
That's the bulk of the wine that you're tasting. There's another varietal called Fresa that we can talk about for hours. But Fresa is the closest relative to Nebiolo. It's actually, we consider them cousins, where Fresa might have originated from the Langhe and Nebiolo from Valtellina. So that's a whole nother conversation. But it has a very similar style of Nebiolo, but it has more strawberry characteristics and a little bit more bitterness. And there's very little Fresa planted. Then there's a grape called Albarossa, which we won't get into, and a touch of Pinot Noir. So it's kind of everything in the kitchen sink.
Touch of what?
It's Pinot Noir.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's important too because Vajra is one of the very few producers that do a varietally based Fresa wine. There's really only a handful, and very few of them are even brought into the United States. And so if somebody is wanting to collect a really interesting bottle of wine that almost none of your neighbors are going to have, and none of your even other wine collectors that that are the people who have all the Grand Cru Burgundies and all the first growth Bordeaux.
Or if you want to
Fresa, that Fresa is an absolutely phenomenal bottle of wine, and it will age gracefully for a number of years. And even this Langhe Rosso, this current vintage, this wine is going to be fine for a few years. And also, people out there, hopefully you could decant this wine for a nice dinner too. I mean, this is a very versatile wine. It is, especially with that tannin structure and the acid, it's a wine that is built to, maybe not go 10 or 15 years, but it's going to be fine for a few years for sure.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Does anybody want to comment?
I mean, it's delicious. I love it. It's very complex and dynamic, and not anything. I don't think it's like anything that I think we've had so far.
So it's still very Italian. It's still very Italian, but it also has that quality. I think that people that maybe are not so into Italian will also appreciate, and can be delve into Italian wines without it being too in your face, Italian. I mean, does that make sense?
What does that mean? What are you trying to say?
Hey!
Come on.
I think it's Italian, but it's also approachable. It's one of those Italians that is just so Italian.
Listen, my family's from Brooklyn too. Okay, me and Kevin, I'm gonna get them down here. We're gonna talk to you about this. Okay? No, but I think that Piemonte is a very interesting region. I know Kevin could talk about this more, but it's not a quintessentially there's some quintessential products that we mentioned at the beginning. I mean, we talked about Rocher. We talked about all these things, right? We talked about Nutella. I mean, these are, and there was a lot of in the north. There's a lot of factories. There's high fashion in Milan and places like that. But to the American consciousness, as far as Italian at the table, it's not what they often think about. They think about sort of Southern Italian cooking, especially. They think about tomatoes and pizza and, and braciole and lasagna and stuff like that. And they think about Chianti. So, yeah, I think this isn't necessarily the type of cuisine and wine that the average American thinks about a lot. Maybe, Kevin, you can extrapolate on that a little bit more.
Wait, I think I misunderstood, though, Michael. Can you explain that last part?
About how, I think that when she was talking about how this is different of an entry to Italian wine than maybe something would be like from Tuscany or Campania, or where Americans are familiar with sort of Americanized Southern Italian food and wine. It seems to be I think it's what Americans think about when they think about an Italian restaurant.
Yeah. Okay, I think I understand.
So when Charlotte's saying this is a different entry into Italy, I think it's important to think about the culture and the food too in Piemonte, which is very different from anything further south.
Yeah. So I think you might be referring to, more of a serious seriously tannic wine, or something that like like Chianti or Brunello or even Barolo for that matter. This is. Well, let me talk to you about the style that we make the wines to begin with, because our style has never really changed. I do think I think palates are changing across the board, where people want to taste the varietals that are being made instead of the winemaking, and I think that comes out in this wine, where this wine is focused on what is in the vineyard as opposed to what's in the cellar, and you see that with all of our wines, including our Barolo as well, and we let the terroir speak for itself. So I think what you're mentioning is that this is an easy drinking. It's not too rustic. It's not too, what you might say, earthy. It's not too tannic. This is a pleasant wine. And it's kind of always how we made the wines. It's seen more as a modern style, because I just think the way that we are drinking wines now are more pleasurable and ready to drink wine. And I think that's.
I don't think saying that it's a modern style is a bad thing. I mean,
no.
What
I don't either.
Yeah, I mean,
not at all. I'm referring to, for some of the viewers who might think of modern as the old modern, which was barrique and heavy extracted wines, and now the new modern is more drinkable wines. Totally. Hopefully, a lot of people like a little bit lower alcohol. Pop the bottle open and drink it, maybe even chill it. I love those wines, and that's sort of always been our style. And when we tasted along in Nebiolo too, our entry level Dolcetto, Barbera, and Nebiolo, including the Rosso as well, are very entry in the sense that we allow the grapes to come forward as opposed to the winemaking.
And to know for our customers, just in case anybody, we did put, Fix, you had this on slight chill. We had these slightly brought down a bit from room temperature. Yeah. When we started enjoying them, it's maybe October in Florida, but it's still hot.
Hot, yeah.
So
it's not. You don't hear in my tank top.
I don't exactly want to serve it at room temperature per se. In my opinion, I think it's well to be brought down a few degrees.
Well, we always drink our reds a little too warm, probably, right? We always drink our whites a little too cold. But, for something that has high tannin and high acid, I think when it's got a little chill on it, I think it makes it that much more of a pleasurable wine. And then, we were talking about food and culture. Like, we always equate, like, an Italian wine to be paired with pizza or something. But, Kevin, you've been to Piemonte. What would they drink? Yeah. What could somebody make of this?
Well, I would say that the Americanized Italian food is much more heavier than the food that you see in Italy. It's definitely a little bit more lighter. In Piemonte, it's lighter cuisine, unless you're having a lot of meat, and that's usually the case here in Italy. In this part of Italy, it's usually a lot of meat. So I think the wines here do really well with gamier meats. There's some of the best beef, you know, in the world, in this part of the world. And so it does extremely well with heavier meats. But for sure, when you travel around Italy, the food tends to be a much more lighter than what we think of Italian food here in America, for sure.
I know for me, I mean, Pam just commented that they're having it with some Kalamata olives. I'm certain that it would be appropriate with some, you know, a charcuterie board and some amazing cheeses. To me, we had a chef. I had a chef for years out of my last role, and he's now downtown at Taco Agave overseeing World of Beer and all that. And they used to make this white barbecue sauce that went on barbecue that was incredibly spicy and amazing. But this is so smooth and delicious. I could totally see this with some zesty barbecue.
Yes, you can. I would agree.
You know, it has that smoothness and that delicious kind of just evenness that I think would balance out the spiciness that could be in some hotter barbecue. Not a sweet barbecue per se.
I would say, you know, with Barbera, yes. With Dolcetto, maybe yes. But I think with Nebiolo, stay away from the spicier barbecue.
Yeah.
You know, save more.
Well, with this Rosso.
Sweeter. Yeah, with the Rosso, I think. But I think sometimes with the Rosso, yes, it can go a little bit spicier. But when we're going to get into Nebbiolo, tannins and that type of spice do not do extremely well.
Absolutely.
But the wines that lack tannin, yeah, they're great with spicier.
Before we move to the Nebbiolo, real quick, will you tell us a little bit about the technical aspects of the wine making for Rosa?
Yeah, and so with these are all picked separately and fermented separately. Mainly because Dolcetto is the first to ripen, Barbera is the second to ripen, Nebiolo is the last to ripen. So they're all coming in at different times. Our philosophy is a bit modern in the sense that we use all stainless steel ferments. We're all indigenous yeasts, but we also do longer time on the skins. Now, when I say longer macerations, that doesn't mean that we're extracting more color and more tannin. It's more like we're giving it time to have, instead of aggressively macerating, we're giving it time and doing more of a softer maceration. So the wines are a little bit more subtle. And then this wine is actually finished in majority stainless. We only use a small percentage of wood, and the wood is all large Slavonian, which is very traditional. So the long maceration and the Slavonian oak is very traditional. We also destem all of our fruit. So we're focused more on the tannins that lie in the skins and the seeds as opposed to the stems.
It still has a really nice, really nice tannins.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see across the board with our wines that there's a sort of a silkiness, to that. Some of that comes from high elevation, being a little bit more patient, focusing on just the berries. So the tannins are a little bit more silkier and smooth as opposed to grittier. And, you'll see that across the board with our wine.
I wonder if by the magic of television I could get some Langhe Nebbiolo in my glass, because I don't have any more Vajra wine over here on the other side of the world. But I will say this, when Kevin was talking about the maceration we hear, and he was talking about, I don't like to use the word gentle maceration, but I mean, you know, that's what we're saying. There is, look at that, wow. My glass is getting filled. Way too much, probably, too. But oh, there it is.
There you go.
But I think that the house style, and I think a lot of wineries who want to, you know, every vintage is different, of course, but there is a style to a Vajra wine. And I think that the maceration technique and the aging techniques, and also, we don't want to get too nerdy, but some of the punch down techniques that they use are very particular to the Vajra style. And I think that that's really important as to the reason why most of these wines are both ready to drink when they're released and drink really well years afterwards, including Barolos and Barberas, Superiores, etc. Riesling, if anybody wanted to have a Riesling from Italy, the Vajra Riesling is one of the best Rieslings in the world. If you like Mosel Rieslings, you're going to love it. It's specific to Italy, but it's probably one of the best Rieslings I've ever had.
I was fascinated about that because when
I know.
everything.
We're
I know,
both, we're like, we both have
"Um,
stuff to say about this.
attack.
Are we diverting? Are we diverting to
You go
Riesling now?
first.
No, you go first.
All I was
A little bit. Why not?
researching, I was astounded, or not astounded, but I was intrigued to note that he like headlined the first strain
Ever
of
planted, yeah.
Riesling grapes there.
Yeah, in the Piemonte area, the first planted were in our vineyards in 1985.
Right. Like that's amazing.
These cuttings actually come from Germany originally, and the other cuttings that we have were Massal selections from Alsace in Germany. So they're not clonal selections from Italy, but as of 2011, there is a Lange Riesling DOC. There's now
That's crazy.
30 growers that grow Riesling in the region, so it's come quite a long way.
That's super interesting.
very
I don't think, I
it.
mean, is there any other place in Italy that does that?
Yeah, I think Alto Adige.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
In the Südtirol area, you'll see some of that influence from Austria and Germany.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But other than that, no, you don't really see Riesling. This region is not really known for white wines. Arnase was almost once.
That was one of our sketch notes.
That was almost once.
White wines?
thing.
Question mark?
No, because I do like, there's I won't say, but it's somebody else that makes white wine that's one of my favorite white Italian that Fix sells, but
It starts with a V too. We don't. Yeah, we'll talk. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
but it's one of my favorites, and so
Yeah.
my question was white wines that you just mentioned.
In the region, sorry, I think I missed the last thing you just said because of the time.
The other white wines from the long area.
The Lange area. So I just mentioned Arnase. There's
Arnase,
other grapes called Erbaluce, Timarato, obviously Moscato from the Asti area generally.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of Chardonnay. We also grow a grape called Nebiolo, which was almost extinct, which is much newer because it's sort of being revived. That goes into a grape. That goes into a wine, the Langhe Bianco Dragon from Luigi Bodana, that we make as well. But Chardonnay is a little bit more common. There's also a good amount of Sauvignon Blanc as well. But outside of Moscato from Asti, Cortese from Gavi, Erbaluce from Alto Piemonte, and then Arnase from Roero, there's not a lot of white varietals here. However, there is a designation called Alta Longa, which is Metodo Classico. So they do love their sparkling. So those are really good champagne style. What was that?
I literally just looked at like
We actually make a spumante that Michael can bring you called Nostra Sonora della Neve, which is a Metodo Classico, Nebiolo, and Pinot Noir. Good, sorry.
So call me Senorita Bubblita. That's my nickname around here. So if there is a bubbly available here in the States, I would love to.
We do, Michael. Put another note there.
And
There you go, Mike. There you go.
We got it. The rosé bubbles are terrific too. The rosé bubbles are very tasty.
Absolutely.
So we got the Lange Nebiolo. Let's jump into that. I think I'll be this will be one of the rare times that I put us back on track, as opposed to off.
Yeah, thank you. We were talking about our whole line for a moment there.
Which is still good.
High at all.
So this
first
of all is 100% of the varietal Nebiolo. For just a quick reminder, we're talking high acid, high tannin. Half of these vineyards are actually located within the DOCG. So half of these vineyards are can be Barolo vineyards, are younger Barolo vineyards. The other half are literally just right outside the DOCG in vineyards that are in the area, but not in the Barolo area. But stylistically, this wine is very true to the varietal, right? Again, really soft, really silky, bright cherry, bright red fruited, nice
soft,
high
silky,
acid,
and
high tone,
bright would be three words.
I like to say high tone acid. And you could tell it's a little bit more translucent in the glass. So a little bit lighter color as well. So when you try a Lange Nebiolo, there's sort of two styles. We're on the one side, which is more approachable, delicate styles of Nebbiolo. And then there's sort of the baby Barolos or the Barolinos or the barrel selections. And those are fantastic wines. This is just the way that we make the wine.
I really like it. It has a floral quality to me, that floral quality that I just love. And I find that in just a few wines. And to me, that just, it's my favorite.
Yeah,
so it's delicious.
So we look at this as allowing people to taste Nebbiolo instead of a Barolo-esque Nebbiolo.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to taste Barolo, they can try our entry-level Barolo Albe. That is also still approachable, but that's our entry-level Barolo, not the Lungy.
Which we also sell here at Aragon Wine Market.
Thank you.
I think, doesn't Vajra call this the purest expression of Nebbiolo that they make? I mean, I think that's pretty accurate, and I think it's one of those wines that when you put your nose in it, one of my favorite odd phrases to use in the wine business, when you stick your nose in the glass, it's one of those wines you almost, and I've said this before about really terrific wines, you almost don't want to drink it right away. You'd rather just ruminate over the scents that are coming off the grape.
Yeah.
It's
so pretty and so
Pretty.
complex, just right in the nose that you almost just want to just ruminate over it for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Pretty, complex, floral. Those are wonderful words that I think encompass it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're drinking the 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we just started releasing the 2019 from the winery, so you guys will start seeing that in a couple months.
Good.
This is always a much fresher vintage, so you normally see this earlier than a lot of the other wines that we make. This is 90% stainless, and so this again is the varietal. This is not the winemaking.
So one of the things that I've been harping on this series is ageability, and you can't just go out always. And so I do appreciate being able to just grab a bottle and drink it. But I also appreciate being able to be patient and put a wine away. And you can't just buy an aged wine. You have to do that yourself, usually, unless you're lucky. So what would you say about this Nebbiolo on, like, how would you go about, like, what is its ageability? Would you?
Well, Nebbiolo can age for.
What'd you say?
Nebbiolo can age for decades if you wanted to. This might not age. This decades, yeah.
Decades, dun dun dun. I'm sorry, I'm like dramatic entry music.
No, it's okay. Why don't I do this? Why don't I explain to you this Nebbiolo, but also maybe the ageability of Barolo in general, because it's clearly less for Lungy Nebbiolo. So this is really great within the first 10 years of its life. But the thing about Nebbiolo is it's not just, it's great now and then it gets worse, or it's worse now and it gets better. It kind of does this bell curve,
nice.
Which is kind of unique. So with Barolo,
let's make it easy on us.
Yeah. So I would say up to 10 years you should be drinking this wine. This is definitely consume early type of wine. But you can find old bottles of Lungy Nebbiolo from the 70s and 80s that are probably still really delicious. Now Barolo is made to be age worthy, right? So to talk about Barolo, it does this sort of bell curve. So when you first have it, it's kind of there's this drinkability, but within like 3 years, it sort of starts to close a little bit, right? And then after that, within about 5 years, it starts to blossom again, right? And then you kind of go up and up and up for 10, 20 years or whatever, and then it kind of goes down again. So there's this time frame with Nebbiolo where in the first 3 years after release, it's quite fantastic. But then it becomes a little tight. It starts to like close down a little bit, and then it kind of blossoms. So
that's interesting.
When we talk about buying wines and putting them away, if you have the means to do it, it is really nice to buy 6 bottles and kind of see the life of the bottle throughout time and sort of see the evolution. As opposed to saying, "Ooh, I'm waiting for the 10th year to drink this wine. It's going to be fantastic." And you might have missed some really fantastic years waiting for that year.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, I was going to say that with something like Barolo or Barbaresco, in this case Barolo, we're talking about a Barolo, a winery that makes Barolos. When you buy those 6 bottles, or there's 4 bottles, whatever it is, at the current release, you're going to pay basically quality-wise to price ratio-wise a lot less than something from Napa, a heck of a lot less. I mean, thousands of dollars less than a Grand Cru Burgundy. So, I mean, that's the reason why Piemonte, Barolo, the king of wines, it is the king, but you don't pay a king's ransom to have it, to be able to enjoy it when it's been aged, as perfectly as you can do it in your home.
That's exactly what I was about to say when you stepped on my feet. Was exactly. I mean, the price on these is like so much less than some of these other age-worthy wines, and so
we have the Nebiolo at $23 a bottle.
The Nebiolo is at $23, but even the Barolo, I mean, and then it's something that you could buy 6 bottles of, like you said, Fix, and put them away and try them as you go along throughout the years. I mean, they're not going to break the bank, and that's super important. And I mean, while we're all, we can't all afford to get the fancy First Cruise or Romani Conti, all these fancy wines. And so it's nice to find wines that you can age and you can enjoy. And are we about to die?
No, we're not about to die.
We got low battery.
Oh, we have a low battery. We are about to die. We have 8%. We're going to get through the broadcast.
All right, make it through the podcast. We've got 4 minutes left. So I love this wine. I would compare. I mean, it is so much. It's light. It's beautiful. Compare the other is lovely as well. This one, I'd say, was a little step up for maybe a weekend wine. What would you pair this one with?
You're asking me. This wine right now. Well, let's go with season. Right now, there's some really great mushrooms. I think kind of brings out that earthiness.
Oh man,
mushrooms.
Can I tell you what I want for Christmas?
Truffle
mushrooms.
So you know how Facebook and all those things keep telling you like what you really need.
This is what you need.
I know, it's so weird. And so all these grow your own mushrooms ads are coming up on my Facebook right now.
Nice.
Yeah. So FYI.
Do it.
Nice.
So I would say, mushroom dishes are really fantastic with this.
I love a mushroom risotto.
Yeah.
A mushroom risotto would be beautiful with this for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to.
My mother also makes for Thanksgiving my mom makes 4 different types of stuffing because she's aggressive like that and wants to please everyone. And I love you, Mother. But she has a mushroom stuffing that she makes. She also makes an oyster one and a traditional apple and celery.
Dang.
And all that jazz. I know.
That's too much.
It's so much. She killed herself for days. I'm not mad about it, Mom. I love you. But the mushroom stuffing for the holidays, I feel like would be perfect for this.
This would be a great holiday wine.
Ossobuco, man. Ossobuco Milanese. That would be pretty good. That'd be pretty awesome. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
So we are doing a Thanksgiving box that we do every year, and I would say this would probably fit nicely into the box.
I would assume it purely based upon the label. Write that down.
Beautiful.
The label alone, to me, screams the Rosso and the Nebbiolo. Where am I at? There we go. Yes, I mean that to me screams holiday and just fall and beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Harvest.
I agree.
And there we go.
We should mention you can get some Barolo too.
Oh, right. You want me to
Rico delle Viole.
Thank you. Thank you.
The we have this 2014 available that if you like Barolo or you want a really special Barolo, we're doing a little special deal on it. So if anybody wants to hit up the shop for
it's not
a special price,
but it's definitely a better bargain because we are doing it at a special price. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants it, now's the time to get it.
Sure.
And it would be also nice to put in your cellar or to have for Thanksgiving as well. So-
Definitely.
Stocking stuffer is
Kevin-
perfect.
You want to just go back to my screen and then I'll talk about it and let you guys finish?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Because I'm actually right on Bricca delle Viole at the moment. Okay, so here's Bricca delle Viole. All of this red is Bricca delle Viole. It has the name actually has a translation. It would, if you see the word Brico, that means the top of the hill, right? Okay, so Brico is the top. Delle Viole is a violet. So we were talking about floral aspect. Being that it's so exposed, high elevation, it sits above the fog line. It's where some of the first snow melt would take place in the spring, but also where some of the first flowers would blossom, specifically violets. That's where it gets its name. These are the oldest vineyards that we farm. Aldo's grandfather planted a little over 2 acres in 1949, and some more vineyards in the 60s as well. So Bricca delle Viole is a much more gentle, vibrant, easy drinking Barolo that can age extremely long. And again, when we talked about longer macerations, this is about a 55-day period on the skins where we submerge the cap and then release. This is our top wine at the winery. 14 is a vintage that's was a little bit cooler of a vintage, so the wines are even more elegant than warmer vintages like 15 or 11. So this is a really fantastic wine. In terms of comparison with the Nebiolo is much more softer tannins, much more of that kind of bright fruit. The Bricca delle Viole has a lot of that fruit, but it has a little bit more kind of rustic quality to it. More of this kind of like herbal, like dry herbs, kind of even like a little bit of minty on the nose. It's got a lot of that kind of lavender and lilac. This is really elegant.
I would love to try that as well. That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
But I am in love with this Nebbiolo.
The Nebiolo is beautiful.
just- I love it. That whole floral thing for me. But the other one sounds delicious as well. So, but thank
Cool.
you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Like, we
Yeah,
really appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
That was really
And,
fun.
you know, I know you're.
We hope that you'll come and join us in Pensacola when we're all traveling again.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
definitely.
We definitely want you here. We love it. We love the winery here in Pensacola. A lot of our, we have some restaurant partners that love the wines. So we were bummed that you couldn't make it, but we're really looking forward to when we can bring you and all of our other great wine partners back, because it's a great wine loving town.
soon.
It really is.
I really cannot wait for that. I miss traveling so much.
Yeah, I know. We
I
all
know.
do. And we hope that you have a great holiday season.
Thank you
because
so
I
much.
know
You
that's holidays are coming up, and we hope that in 2021 we'll see you again.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Kevin.
joining. Ciao.
Wow.
Oh,
Fix.
that was so
We did it
nice.
again. He was so wonderful. Thank you so much
We've
for
had
connecting
such
us.
good. We've had such really great people joining us, and I hope everybody appreciates that, because we've really had some good people, and I really
That's
really
definitely been one
like
of the
it.
coolest things for me is just understanding. Like last week, we had someone that it was like almost 1 a.m. I think by the time we finished.
Yeah.
And they committed their time and talent.
Well,
and
right, he was in
education.
England, and it was
Right?
1 a.m.
Yeah, it was
for
1
him.
a.m.
So, yeah.
So, you know, it's wonderful to be able to connect with these people. And thank you, Fix, for
Yeah, I
making
know.
that
It's
happen.
really neat. So we will say, let's talk about next week.
Yes.
So,
It's going to get
Fix, are you-
spooky.
Fix, you look kind of spooky.
I know. You are
What
spooky.
is wrong with your... Look at us. Look how clear we are. And look how he looks spooky. Are you doing this on
So
purpose?
for our viewers, we did upgrade this week to an iPad, and that
We look super
comparatively
clear.
to the laptop
And
is
apparently he
like
looks spooky.
Yes.
Anyways, so we are doing a spooky theme.
I'm already married. Who do I have to impress? I can look as spooky as I want.
fair enough. Fair enough. So tell us about this ghost runner and ghost block.
So it's pretty cool. You know, we have these two wines that, you know, we don't market these as a Halloween wine. We're not really a company that has like Halloweeny kitschy stuff, but I figure it was a good opportunity to have something that was in line with those. Do we have the bottles to look at, or no? I don't know. Maybe not. But we have a really cool, robust red blend that has like Zinfandel, Petit Syrah, Syrah. It's a really great, robust wine that anybody who likes Zin or Petit Syrah is really going to enjoy. And then we have a really special wine, the Ghost Block Sauvignon Blanc from Yountville in Napa Valley. This is a kind of a little bit of a cult winery, which I use that word for Halloween, not that loosely, or maybe loosely. But it is kind of a really well-respected, highly regarded winery that a lot of Napa Valley people who are into Napa Valley wines will be used to hearing. And this is their white wine, which is a wine that not many people have probably had. They're used to seeing their, really big and age-worthy Napa Valley wines. And it's a terrific Sauvignon Blanc. I would say for anybody that likes the Mary Edward Sauvignon Blanc that we sell here in the shop, this would be a decent alternative to that.
I can't wait to try it.
Which costs just it costs a little bit less than the Mary Edwards, but I mean that just gives you a slight reference point to a little bit of the style.
It actually costs significantly less than the Mary Edwards. We sell it for 25, and Mary Edwards is more in the 40,
48.
Yeah, 48. So,
and that's just to give you a little bit of a stylistic similarity.
Yeah.
It's not going to be apples to apples, but just for somebody who likes Sauvignon Blanc, this will be a barrel fermented Sauvignon Blanc, so it's not going to be, like a Sancerre or a New Zealand style Sauvignon Blanc. It's going to have a little more depth, a little more.
Like that style. That's one of my favorites. So I'm super excited to try it. I haven't tried it. We got it in for the spooky theme, but I love that style of wine.
So maybe.
So I'm really excited. The Ghost Runner Red Blend is less. It's 14. So come and try that as well, or get one or both or whatever.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, Fix, go ahead.
You're dressing up, right? Is that the thing? You're going to dress up?
It'll be
people will dress up with
astounding.
us.
So people should be dressing up at their house, maybe, right?
Just
and
know.
take some pictures.
Yeah.
Take some pictures of themselves and post it on Instagram or on Facebook for their with pictures of the wine, maybe. Hashtags of the wine.
Hashtag Aragon Wine Market. We would not be mad about that at all.
Yeah.
Please, I mean, here we are in this new 2020 endeavor of an amazing and astounding world. Take pictures. I posted this yesterday on a friend of mine, Mary's Facebook page, and I said, take the pictures. Show up for the lunch, even if it's late. Enjoy the dinner. Embrace the moments that we have, because time is fleeting. And while we say that jokingly as a stigma to something that we love from a pop culture, thing in our lives, it's a reality. Take the pictures, enjoy, and live your life and drink the wine. Sure, I'm sorry. Save the wine for later, but drink the wine today. I just cursed. It took me 6 to 8 months, but I just did. Drink the wine, but also save the wine for tomorrow. And we hope that. I don't know.
I'm still laughing. So anyway, I'm sure nobody is really.
5 of us.
Nobody
gets our Rocky Horror Picture Show.
SHIT word. So anyway. So
tomorrow,
so
next week will be fun.
It's just going to be the 3 of us, and so we really want you guys to ask questions. Bring your questions. Bring your costumes.
Let your freak flag fly.
Here we are. All that. So, all right. So we'll say bye to Fix.
Bye, Fix.
Bye, Fix. All right. So that was fun.
That was fun.
So
an amazing broadcast. Amazing.
It's always
wine.
fun. It's always lots of fun. So we are gonna say, come out, grab your either your Sauvignon Blanc or your red blend, both, and they're both gonna be great. Dress up, please. Ask questions. We'd love for you guys to participate in everything. Yvonne, we saw you tonight. NPM Davey, thank you guys both for commenting and everything. Remember, again, we've got the holiday parties, we've got the holiday boxes, and as always, we're welcome for special orders. So have
a great night.
Can't wait to see you
next week. It'll be spooky.
Yes.